Hey everyone! So as I'm sure many of you guys know, people with eating disorders can also suffer from co-occurring mental illnesses. These can be anything from depression to bipolar to substance abuse issues, self-injury, addiction, anxiety disorders. There's like a myriad of things that could be associated with and come as a result of your eating disorder, or because of another mental illness, you might have developed an eating disorder. Today's video, I actually wanted to talk about anxiety and anxiety disorders when you um, have that co-occurring with an eating disorder. Now, as I know I've told you guys, or at least I've said it on my own channel if you watch that, my eating disorder has always been the restrictive type as opposed to the binging type. And it was always a way to like control. And I have very bad anxiety and I have so many OCD tendencies. It's terrible. And when you're, okay, scientifically, when you are not giving yourself the nutrients that your body needs, the calories and energy it needs to function properly, your brain chemically alters, it starts to change. And basically, your mind cannot it doesn't have like the ability to change thoughts because that takes too much energy and you don't have energy to do that. So when you have a thought running in your mind, it just keeps running because you don't have enough energy to combat that thought, A, to B, think of a different thought, or C, to just not think at all. And so you just have this one thought running rampant in your mind. And when you have very bad anxiety, it starts to build up. And when you have something, say, happening like later in the day, and you start to work yourself up, because your brain is chemically altered and you do not have the calories that you need to calm yourself down and to kind of have that mental dialogue that lets you know that you're going to be okay, your body's kind of like fast forward and you feel like you're off the wall. Everything is happening so fast and you're just freaking out inside. As I'm sure anyone who has ever felt anxious will know, you can't wait. And the one thing that I really wanted to look at was specifically how restricting can play into anxiety because it just feeds it. It feeds the inability to function and challenge those thoughts. There was this one day, I'm going to do a case example, so I'm going to tell you guys a story. So this one day last year, I had just started recovery. My eating was not up to where it is now. And basically, I went through the day and I had nothing. And except I had like the smallest thing, but it didn't even count as food. It was one of those like negative calorie foods. But okay, so it's like third block at my school. So oh, I know what it was. It was okay, I was going to my third class, but I actually showed up late because the schedule was off that day. It was very confusing day, and so I just went to class like 20 minutes late. But apparently, everyone in the entire school had been searching rampantly for me. They had the whole guidance department looking. They had sent students all over the school, which I was with a teacher, so I'm surprised they just didn't like check with other teachers. I don't know. But so everyone was freaking out, wondering where I was, and that sent me into a frenzy. I was so anxious about seeing my classmates then because they had already known that I wasn't there and I had to explain where I was. And the other thing that really got me was they had everyone searching the school, and I go to a very small school, and yet they couldn't find me, and that kind of was like a shocker, like shouldn't they at least be able to find me? There's not really that many places I can hide. But so I started to work myself up, and my anxiety started to increase. And then I actually had a guidance appointment that I went to, but I was actually an hour early because, as I said, the schedule was off, so it was just not my day. And I started freaking out because I had messed up again, and the anxiety of just the entire day, it felt like the whole world was crashing down on me, and that like I couldn't see my peers again because I had screwed up so much. And just the anxiety that was pulling me down at thinking of having to see them last class or having to see them the next day was something that was really pulling at me, and I just didn't know what to do. I ended up actually going to the nurses, and I was talking to the nurse knows about my eating disorder, and I was with my counselor too from last year. She's such an angel. But so I was with her, and I'm like having a mental breakdown. I am freaking out because the anxiety and the stress that was caused by this one scenario of just being like 20 minutes late to class um, was pulling me down so much that I had no idea how to cope with it. And this was before I had developed coping skills to deal with my anxiety. Um, and so the way that that played into my eating disorder was I hadn't had anything I'd been restricting. I had been engaged in my eating disorder. And because of that, my anxiety was intensified because I was not able to kind of change my thought process. I was still just weighed down. My my counselor and the nurse were talking to me logically, and they were saying like, well, I know you're feeling anxious, and they were talking about it nice and slowly, but I couldn't grasp it because I was so anxious. And when you get in that mindset where your mind is just racing and you can't stop it because the anxiety and the stress and the pressure that you feel is just so great, that is when it develops into a anxiety disorder. And when you're engaging in eating disorder symptoms, you already feel like the weight of the world and everyone is looking at you. You feel the center of everyone's attention because everything has to happen to you. So if somebody does something else, it affects you in some way. Not saying that you're self-centered and that everything, I just said everything revolves around you, but not in the positive aspect, like everyone talks about you. It is if one of your friends comes late to lunch one day because she had to like finish her Spanish homework, it would be your fault. Or if they weren't serving what you wanted for lunch, like what everyone wanted at school, it was your fault. And having that like pressure of the weight of the world on you, in addition to the negative calories that you're having and not being able to function properly, or even coming from a binge purge where you're just so out of it, and binges are associated with guilt, and when you come from that guilty thing to that sudden release, but then the anger that comes from the whole ordeal, like having those two mindsets, either the restrictive or that anger, and having that play into an anxiety disorder just fuels it even more. I compare the obsession to do something, even though irrational, is like the obsession to binge. Nobody logically wants to sit down and eat thousands of calories at a time, and yet they do because they have to. They're compelled to do it. And when you already have that feeling, when you know what it's like to have this part of you that wants something more, and you've been denying it to yourself for so long that you have to engage in it, and then looking at anxiety disorders and saying, well, because you're coming from that place, you get so anxious and so worked up over the littlest things that it can ultimately control your life. And you go from that obsession with having to binge, purge, restrict, and taking that and moving it to the obsession of not touching doorknobs. I know, as I said, I have OCD, and I haven't touched doorknobs since 2006. Like, it's a little weird, but like it's one of the things that you do, and it's like when you have that feeling of you have to do it, you're just compelled to do it no matter what. And to somebody who has an eating disorder and a co-occurring anxiety disorder, it's quite evident to see how they're linked, because you do have that feeling of the weight of the world already weighing you down. You do have the eating disorder voice running in your mind telling you that you have to do this. And sometimes I know the anxiety can be based off the fact that you really want an event to be good. Say you're having a party, you want everything to be perfect, and you start to work yourself up, and you get so invested in it that like you're overly anxious for it. It's actually funny, sometimes I can tell when I'm a little anxious, just a tad bit anxious, when I get ready for events 6 hours in advance and just sit there and I'm like, is it time to go yet? My last group therapy over the summer, I actually, I had, I had it like in the afternoon, and I was ready 6 hours advance, and it was like so let's go. And I just had to wait, and it wasn't good. But that's a tangent for another time. So I hope that clarified kind of like what it's like living with an anxiety disorder and a eating disorder, and seeing kind of how they work off each other. Now the question of the week is, what is your ultimate pick-me-up song, and kind of like the thing that you love to jam to? I don't know if I have a distinct song. I actually have a motivational mashup CD. It has 10 songs on it, and I listen to it in my car, and it is the best thing ever. Like, having that, I listen to it every day, having that constant reminder in the car while I travel of my individuality, my worth, my value, how awesome I am, having that is like the best thing in the world. Just saying. But I think, I don't know. There's a lot of songs. I love the song "One More" by Superchick. Okay, sorry, I had to think of it. Basically, it is talking about going that next step. If you could take that first step, there's no problem. You can make the other 99 steps, and it's just telling you to keep going, telling you to move forward, which is awesome. And then I have other songs, like Skyscraper, Demi Lovato, Mirror by Barlow Girl, saying that, hey, guess what, Mirror? Screw you. I don't need you to tell me how wonderful I am. Actually, okay, just because I'm me, and this will be my last tangent, guys, but the song actually starts out, it goes, mirror, mirror on the wall, have I got it? 'Cause mirror, you've always told me who I am. I'm finding it's not easy to be perfect. So sorry, you don't define me. Sorry, you don't own me. Who are you to tell me that I'm less than what I should be? Who are you? Who are you? I love that song so much. Okay, I'm sorry that I just was randomly bursting out and singing, but I guess that answers the question. I love that song. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. It is amazing. Yeah. Okay, so I should probably get going. This video is getting a little bit long, and I hope that all of you guys are well and have a nice week. Okay, I'll see you guys next Monday. Bye.